Are we good?
Yep.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Now you can call roll call.
Chair Philip Lantry,
Present.
Vice Chair Russell Alexander,
Present.
Member Nanette Douglas, excused absence. Member Dawn Grisby,
Present.
Member Ruby Bridgeforth, excused absence. Daisy Snyder.
Present.
And we have a quorum, all members, voting members this evening.
All right. Thank you. All right. So first order of business is approval of the minutes from the last meeting on April 15th. Did everyone review the minutes? Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 15th.
Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Snyder. I have a second. All right. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. All righty. All right, first action item is ordinance number 2025-46. And this is Clay Whaley Road mixed use. Case number ANX 24-00013. And I assume we should probably go ahead and read all three of these in.
Yes, please.
So we also have ordinance number 2025-47, which is a comprehensive plan amendment, case number CPA 24-00017, and ordinance number 2025-48, which is a zoning map amendment, which is case number ZMA 24-00017. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Bernice Gonzalez, Principal Planner, Community Development. The cases before you this evening is the annexation, comprehensive plan amendment for future land use designation, and a zoning map amendment for zoning designation for the project known as Clay Wiley Road mixed use. The parcels are contiguous and reasonably compact. They're to the city boundary and located within the joint planning area. They currently have a county future land use of mixed use, as well as a county zoning of mixed use. The proposed future land use is within the city and the city zoning district of mixed use. The development is compatible with the surrounding area, and it has no adverse impact on city facilities. There's a graphic representation of the future land use. At the north and the south, it's city's mixed use, and the purple is the county's mixed use future land use. And this is a graphic representation of the zoning in the area. The north and the south are the city's mixed use zoning, and the light blue is the county's mixed use zoning. On before May 1st, 2025, staff reviewed applications for the annexation, the comprehensive plan amendment, and zoning map amendment, and recommended approval. Likewise, we're requesting the planning commission conforming to the non-development code 16 findings that they also recommend approval. Staff and the applicant are present for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from staff before we ask staff to come up? All right, thank you. So I see the applicant here is Dominion Development / RJWA Incorporated.
Yes.
Hello.
Good evening. John Adams, RJWA, Kissimmee, Florida, 8 Broadway, Kissimmee, Florida, 34741. We're the agent for the applicant, Dominium. We're in agreement with staff's recommendation for approval for these 3 applications. Be happy to answer any of your questions that you all may have.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Let's see here. At this time, we will allow for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on any of these three ordinances? All right, I guess we don't have anybody, so we will close public comment. I did have a question for the city staff. It's on page number 38 of the packet that we received. And I believe this is under the zoning map amendment. Under the consistency with strategic plan goals, it says the proposed zoning map amendment does not meet the intent of the following City of St. Cloud strategic goals, which is high-performing government, focus on the continuity and sustainability of core public services. Is that a misprint? Is that a typo or?
Good evening, Bernice Gonzalez, Principal Planner, Community Development. That is correct, Chair Lantry. That should be, proposed zoning map amendment does meet
I see.
the intent of the following city for
Okay.
St. Cloud strategic goals. Good proofreading.
Oh, you got to read through stuff. Okay. So I have a couple other questions. As you probably know, I have a lot of concerns with this area. And so the issues I have are essentially that I don't believe that they're meeting all of the 16 findings in the land development code. And I'll give you a moment. So finding number 8 under the zoning map amendment, it says that the proposed change will create or excessively increase traffic congestion or otherwise affect public safety. And the response is the proposed change should not create or excessively increase traffic or affect public safety. A traffic impact analysis will be required at site development plan submittal to further evaluate potential impacts and ensure mitigation requirements are met. And so conveniently, since you have the transportation element in here, you have the definitions of different levels of service for transportation, right? And that's A through F. So if you compare that statement with the levels of service that are listed in here, and I'm just going to read level of service F. It says this condition usually results from long lines of vehicles backing up because the traffic volume exceeds the roadway capacity. The vehicles are forced to operate at very low speeds. Stop and go situations are frequent, and in extreme cases, vehicles stop for long periods of time. So if you've ever been in this area where this is being proposed, this annexation and zoning map amendment and comprehensive plan amendment, you will probably see the traffic backs up pretty bad, right? Because currently we only have one way in and one way out, which is Clay Whaley Road. And I've said before, and I stand by it, I think it's irresponsible. And I understand that this is the county that's created this issue, and the city's just kind of dealing with it. But it's irresponsible, in my opinion, to annex something that's a liability. And to further that that point, can you bring up the map of the in the transportation element? It's on page 126 of the packet. Are you able to bring up? No.
That's for the other
Okay.
we have.
Well, I'll explain it. So on page 126 is a map showing the principal arterial roads, minor arterial roads, and that sort of thing, right? Your collector roads, that sort of thing. Well, in this case, we're basically looking at Clay Whaley from Canoe Creek Road to where Cross Prairie is labeled as a major collector existing road. I don't disagree with that. However, the Cross Prairie Road is labeled as a future principal arterial road. Parts of it are existing, right? Parts of it are future. However, even when that is finished, you still only have Clay Whaley and that road to get out of this area. And I just, in my opinion, I think it's already a problem. We're already a level F. How can we possibly say that we're meeting that part of the land development code if we're already a level F?
Okay, thank you for that question, Chair. At this time, what we're presenting is the higher level applications that the applicant is making for annexation and giving them a regulatory framework within the city so we can address those things at the development application stage. And that's where all those traffic and other studies and public works would come into play to look at those requirements, and the traffic impact assessment is also part of the requirements of that stage within the city.
Yeah, and I completely understand that, right? We could sit here and say, well, they're not really required to provide that at this time, right? However, I can sit here and look and know that in the next 2-3 years, we're not adding any roads, right? There's no possible way that we can increase the level of service.
Mhm.
And there's no way, in my opinion, that we can meet that one. There's actually two findings of the land development.
So if the applicant is here, that they could answer more specifically to any development information that they wish to provide,
Sure.
so we can allow them to respond to that portion.
So before he does, I just want to read the other one of the findings that I believe is not being met, and that is number 3, which is the proposed change would materially alter the population density pattern and thereby increase or overtax the load on public facilities such as schools, utilities, streets, etc. And the response is the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the county's existing entitlements for mixed-use development and is not expected to significantly affect population distribution or public infrastructure capacity. Level of service impacts will continue to be evaluated and addressed during future stages of development review. So that's the part that has me worried, is where it says level of service impacts will continue to be evaluated, when I know we can continue to evaluate them all we want, but if we're already at a low level of service there, how are we going to improve it? Unfortunately, this area is isolated because of the turnpike, isolating it between West Lake, Toho, and the rest of St. Cloud. So yeah, the applicant can address that.
Sure, I just wanted to add that as part of the comprehensive plan amendment, the school board does a review of the capacity, and they have provided a report that's part of the documents that are included in the item.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was going to be another question of mine later. What information did they actually provide? What part? Because when I go in there and I look at the school, there's really nothing provided that I can see.
There's the school district of Osceola, Florida. They provide a report where they let us know per their capacity whether they can evaluate that at this time or not. Usually they do an evaluation at a level of development application where we have actual site plan provided to them.
Okay, so where is the current report? Because I see a page that says the School District of Osceola County, Florida, Planning Services Department School Capacity Report. And it has the numbers on there. It has the future land use, the current zoning, the comments due date, but there's no actual report there. And then it says a more accurate report can be generated with the submittal of a detailed site development plan application.
Correct.
But there's no report now. So am I missing something, or?
They need a development level application at the site plan where they're actually a site plan created to be able to provide that detailed report. They tell us in that report the number of units, the percentage of impact, and any other recommendations that they.
So the pages in here are not really a report. It's just a cover page that says, hey, we've looked at this. We're not providing a report until we get it.
Yes, Chair, I think that's an old reading of the submittal. I think that the report this time is based on what's being applied for. There were no objections to the contemplated annexation and land use and so on. I think that's really what the report says, by not getting into the weed of anticipated enrollment, affectations, what have you. So I think it's a bit of a harsh reading on it to say that it doesn't say. I think that what the inference is that at this time, there's no objections, that the capacity is existing. And from what I can understand, that they will continue to assess as the development proceeds, but they don't see a problem at this time. Which I think
Well, I'm just
disagree.
asking, where does it say that they don't see a problem, or that they do or don't?
It-
It doesn't say either way. I mean, it really doesn't.
Well, I think that would be raised if in fact there was an objection or concern. And I think in the past that has been the case.
Yeah.
There's been some reports to that effect. But again, and these criteria, it's entirely appropriate for all four of you to review those and take issue with each and every one of them as you see fit, the totality of what you want to consider. But again, this is a 10,000-foot overview, if you will. Annexation, as you well know, you're well experienced in this position with the commission, is a fairly, in the zoning and the land use, those are broad concepts. Getting into what's going to happen to development is relevant. It absolutely is, but I don't know to the detail that you're describing.
Yes, and I agree with that. However, because this is mixed use and they're applying for mixed use in the city,
Sure.
we know it's not going to be a farmhouse, right? We know it's going to be something. It could be commercial, it could be residential, it could be townhomes, could be apartments. I mean, we really don't know, but we're pretty confident that it's going to be something that's going to include a significant transportation element.
Well, it's mixed use now. It's just
Yeah.
county.
That's what my question is, that they have the ability, because they own it, to do mixed use and to do the zoning and everything. It's just moving from county to city. So it's been my experience, or what I've been understanding the last few years, is that this is a voluntary annexation. That's all we're talking about at this point. All of those other points
Yeah.
you're bringing up don't come in until the next level,
But keep
at
in-
which they have to.
keep in mind that we're also talking about putting strain and extra land on city services, right? That's what annexation is.
100%. But if that's going to be really a big issue, that's going to be stopped at the next level, not at this level. Right? Because the bottom line is it's still going to be a strain of anything over there, whether it's city or not. It's going to be a strain on the community that is there right now. And it's the traffic, and nothing's going to change. It's just it's county versus city.
Yeah, I mean, I'd
My
like to sit here
understanding
and-
was if
I'd
we
like to
don't
sit here and
annex,
think that.
we don't get the funds that we need in order to prepare
I'd like to sit here and think that, but 2 years ago, I said the same thing, and here we are. We still have one road in, one road out, and we've got several units that are out there, which now have created that level F, level of service.
Yeah.
But you not wanting there to be annexation to the city is not going to stop that from happening.
It's not a matter of wanting; it's a matter of concern for our city that I'm arising.
I respect that, but it's still going to happen. They own the property, so they can do what they want to, right? By not allowing them to annex is not going to make that happen. But in your description of what you're concerned about, that raises it up to our city council at the next
Exactly.
level to do something.
Exactly.
I
And
just want
that's,
to, if I could, I didn't mean
Yeah,
to
yeah, go
cut
ahead.
you off. I think that the focus at this stage with the annexation in particular is, does it meet the statutory requirements? Is it contiguous? Does it create an enclave? If it does not, if it meets those legal requirements, it's big picture. That's the recognition. You can make a recommendation as you deem fit as a body, but I would just encourage you that unless there's something that legally would preclude the annexation and whatever land use and zoning you would attribute to it, I don't know. There's nothing that I've seen in reports that exists that is in opposition of what's being sought by the application. So you all can bring your collective personal views and experience into assessing the determination. But, unless there's some sort of a quantifiable report that will raise some of the issues that are being discussed, I think you need to be closer to what the law will allow in this instance.
Yeah, and that's fine if other members of this commission want to look at it that way.
Sure.
And the way I'm looking at it is that finding number 3 and number 8, we're not meeting that. That's how I'm looking at it. So.
And it's a recommendation that will go to council, and this will be heard by council. June 12th? June 12th, okay.
Okay.
June 12th will go before council, okay.
All right, your turn. Go ahead. Thank you.
Once again, John Adams, RJWA. I do want to address some of your concerns, but I do again want to point out one thing, that no specific development is being proposed or recommended for approval tonight. This is simply a process that we have to go through your annexation, land use, and zoning per your JPA. Our client owns or has private property rights. These East Lake Toho comprehensive plan was adopted in 2010. This area has been destined for growth for 15 years from the adoption and all the years leading up to that for the planning. So we have a right of reliance on the code. We already have land use and mixed use in the county. We already have zoning mixed use in the county as well. And that's simply what we're asking for tonight, is to maintain those existing entitlements. I do want to address some of your concerns. First one being number 3. On your own city's website, you've got a number out there, 14,153 new housing units will be needed by 2045 in your own city's plan. So we're aligned with the city's projection for growth with this annexation and zoning and land use plan. Number 8, you brought up, and I do understand that right now Clay Whaley Road is likely an F. I haven't seen the data. If that's what you say, I'll believe it. However, currently right now, New Nolte Road is being expanded to the turnpike that's currently under construction. Crossbury Parkway is being continued north to the existing urban center that was just approved by the city council in April. Osceola County has pledged over $50 million to continue Crossbury Parkway from the north end of the urban center over to what's now Hopewell through the Barton Triangle, that city-owned property currently, or D.R. Horton owns that property. Clay Whaley Road is also a framework road that's going to be expanded. Our client would be responsible through a development application to provide an additional 47 feet of right-of-way to expand Clay Whaley Road. They also have a north-south framework road that goes on the western side of this site that they will be responsible for building to provide more interconnectivity throughout the entire area. As far as schools, Osceola County has the highest school impact fees in the state. Quarter mile to the south of us, there's already a 50-acre high school site. In Bella Terra, there's been a K-8 identified, and that's just south of Kissimmee Park Road. And then in Edgewater West, there's also a K-8 school site that's been looked at as well by the school board that's been set aside for those future impacts of the schools. Fire, police, parks, rec, those are all impact fees that need to be paid by the development for every new unit that would be proposed in later applications. The impact fees in Osceola County are at St. Cloud with the new adoption and mobility fees are the highest in the state right now. So I don't know if that helps alleviate some of your concerns, but I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you may have on them.
I appreciate it. I mean, that's pretty much, that's all I have is those concerns, that it was irresponsible, in my opinion, to even start this development in this area, the Edgewater. And I know it was the county, it wasn't the city. The city's just kind of adopting it. And in my opinion, it's just a liability to only have one way in and one way out. And I agree. I know that Nolte will be another interchange, but we don't know when that's going to be done. Maybe
Being
another
built now.
year, maybe a year and a half.
Likely longer.
But we're seeing is, how long does it take to build an apartment building or townhouses or something? A lot less time than it takes to build these roads.
There's at least another
And so-
year to 18 months of engineering plans that go through a formal staff review and formal approvals. There's South Florida Water Management permitting process that's anywhere from a 90 to 180 day process. This is step one of a very long development process before ground's even broken.
Understood. All right, I mean, I appreciate it. Does anybody else have any questions? The applicant?
Not a question, but just like, I trust the staff to be looking at it from that 10,000 point view, foot view of knowing what it is that is agreed upon, whether go, like you mentioned, the schools, et cetera. And so when they are saying it's based on those findings, that they also are projecting because they know what is coming much greater and deeper than what we as advisors have. So that's just the way I look at it.
I think we're all just tired of sitting in traffic. It just keeps, it is right. It all just keeps getting built, but nothing gets any better.
Well, I know that
It's
we
like-
can't,
Well, there's
I
two
mean-
ways to pay for traffic improvements. It's through private development or taxpayer funded. Again, St. Cloud just adopted the second highest in the state behind Osceola County for traffic mobility. Those impact fees go directly to the road improvements that are required. And then any new developments required to build their roads throughout their development, any adjacent roads and any off-site improvements that would be required to serve their development.
It's not your fault. I'm
I
not blaming you.
understand.
I'm
It's,
just-
it's,
I'm just-
you-
I don't think anybody's
Yeah.
mad that's in this room.
and I agree. I mean, nobody's fault in this room. However, here we are, we still have an issue with this area. And, we just keep
improvements are
throwing
coming.
more developments there and the issues aren't going to get any better. So
Well,
anyway,
the improvements are coming, and with the adoption that City Council made this past April, last month, of the urban center, once that gets built, all these people in this area no longer need to go onto the east side of the turnpike to go shopping and get their groceries. They would be going to the urban center, and that's what these mixed districts have, are specific urban centers, neighborhood centers, community centers. So it's not one small piece of the puzzle, it's the overall area. When you look at those overall developments of Edgewater out there, there's some specific areas set aside for this neighborhood community centers, just like there's areas set aside for schools. There's civic space set aside for police, fire, post office. So it's all, the whole area, it's all coming online. And I understand it's a lot now. I'm a resident here, born and raised here. I understand the traffic. I've known nothing but growth in this area. There's always been traffic, but the county adopted this in 2010, and with St. Cloud's JPA agreement in 2016, I believe, they also adopted these policies.
all right, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Well, we just need to be careful. Our frustrations personally cannot necessarily reflect what I believe the work that they're doing, which is in good faith because they live here as well, to know that. So that's why it's not ever going to be perfect. We will never be able to catch up. But the decisions and the things that are being done, I think are being done with some wisdom. So.
Okay. All right, so can I entertain a motion? Or would somebody like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval.
Oh, sorry, just in the case of the time.
Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion on ordinance number 2025-46?
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, annexation. Okay. I would
So I'm
like
going to
make
start, I'm going to start with the first one,
Okay,
which is the
That's right.
Annexation.
voluntary annexation.
yeah. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance 2025, I think you said 2046.
Yep, that's 46.
Right, based on the 16 findings within the land development code.
Second.
All right, I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No for me. Motion passes 3-1. All right, so now we have ordinance number 2025-47. Can I get a motion for that one?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance number 2025-47, based on the 16 findings within the land development
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed is no for me. So motion passes 3-1. Ordinance number 2025-48. Do I have a motion for that,
Might as well.
which is the zoning map amendment?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance number 2025-48 based on the 16 findings within the land development code.
Second.
All right, I have a first and a second. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's a no from me as well. So motion passes 3-1.
Of the three items, 3-1.
Just make sure you build a Publix.
I think there might be one coming.
I think there's one coming on that side.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, so action item D, we have ordinance number 2025-49, and this is the transportation element update for the city of St. Cloud, which is case number CPA 25-00006. And this is to adopt a new transportation element of the comprehensive plan in accordance with Florida Statute 163.3161, Article 4, and 187.201, Article 7.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Radke. I'm the Mobility and Special Projects Manager, Community Development, and I'll be presenting about the transportation element update of the comprehensive plan tonight. So last year, we updated our transportation mobility master plan, and we have the Vision Zero Safety Action Plan as well. We're both approved in September of 2024. So our goal with the transportation element update is to align our goals and policies with those master plans that we approved last year. So we spent the last few months working on it. The last time that this transportation element was updated was back in 2002. So we were more than due for an update. So we're not necessarily proposing anything new or different from what was approved in the master plans last year. We're mostly, the updates that we're making is to align the goals and policies so we can, what the data and analysis from those master plans were telling us. So I'll go over some of the goals, the existing conditions and future needs, the proposed updates, and then what the next steps are. So the master plans that we updated last year, they updated the data inventory for the city, looking at roadways and looking at not just capacity, but multimodal opportunities and more connections opportunities throughout the city. So, and also recommended best practices for those updates. So with this transportation element, we're putting into place those what was identified on those two master plans concerning safety and concerning the overall network. And our focuses are on safety, sustainability, and efficiency. We also, with the transportation mobility master plan, we did our roadway inventory. So we identified the framework streets, the main streets running through the city that connect people to different places. We also align our jurisdictional responsibilities, making sure we know which roads are maintained by the county, which roads are supposed to be maintained by the city. We looked at the streets from a classification standpoint to see how they were performing and what were the opportunities to increase the performance on those roadways. As far as safety goes, we looked at different crash locations where signalization could be improved. We looked at evacuation routes and just really did this thorough data analysis of all of our existing facilities and our plans. We also identified what would be the locations or the roadways appropriate for public transit, active transportation, and future regional facilities. With that inventory, we also did the transportation analysis, looking at the growth trends. So that's been updated with the more recent data that we have from the past few years. Again, looking at safety, performance of those roadways, and some other plans that we have in place. So this is the Framework Streets map. It was the thing that was approved with our master plan last year. The only difference is that the plan that was in the master plan showed the built out scenario. And then for the transportation plan, we changed it up a little bit to show which roads are existing, which are the solid lines, and which roads are the ones proposed or future roads, which are the dashed lines. So this helps guide us when we're planning for our transportation network. Any development that goes in those areas adjacent or close to those roadways, they have different requirements about how to build those roadways and how we want these main roadways heading to the city to look like. So this map helps guide us that way. This is just the updated ultimate maintenance responsibility map. Some of these sections are still within the county's jurisdiction, but once they get annexed into the city, the yellow roads will be ultimately our responsibility. The green lines will remain county, and the purple lines are state maintained. And this is the roadway performance map. So all of this data and analysis helps inform us which projects we should be focusing on and what are the priority areas for the city. So it can look different for each area. Not every constrained roadway we're able to add more lanes, for example. So it doesn't. So when you look at the data and when you look at the what shows in the map, a lot of that is just information for us to make the best decision. So sometimes the best decision will be, let's acquire more right of way, let's make this road wider. But a lot of times would be, since this roadway is constrained, we need more north-south opportunities or east-west so we can alleviate the congestion, or we need more multimodal opportunities so people don't have to drive their cars everywhere and they have other options to move around the city. So it will really depend on the area and on the land use in those areas as well. But all of this helps inform those decisions for us. We have two overall goals that we're proposing with the element. They haven't changed. The overall goals haven't changed that much from what we currently have. We just made we just highlighted that we want our transportation system to be multimodal and for all users. So the element that we had before was very car oriented. Wanted to bring more elements that we're thinking about safety of everyone using the transportation system, or cyclists or pedestrians, and our drivers. So everyone is included in the planning for these roadways. And then our goal number 2 is to develop a financially feasibility transportation system, or financially feasible transportation system that meets the accessibility needs of the city's residents, businesses, and visitors. So basically, goal 2 is supporting goal number 1. Goal number 1 is what we envision, and then goal number 2 is how we're going to achieve that through different funding opportunities. So just go over goal number 1 updates. FDOT updates their recommendations and their best practices every few years. So the one that we had in our current element was 1999. So we updated that reference and those best practices to the more recent FDOT manual, which again focuses on multimodal, focuses on level of services, not just for cars and drivers, but for pedestrians and cyclists as well. And they just mean different things for all the users. It is looking at the transportation system as a whole that we can make the streets safer and more effective for everyone. Another thing that they updated that we incorporated into our policies is to look into their context classification. So right now, the way that we have roadways are mostly, we look at them based on capacity, volume of traffic, which is based on the land uses that those roadways serve. But with context classification, it just makes the roadways more tailored for different areas of the city. So it's not that we're adopting everything right now, but just including it as a part of the element, it just gives us an opportunity to look into that in the future to see where we can improve on the ways that we already make our plans. And the same with the complete streets policies and the recommendations from the Vision Zero plan. Again, all of these were part of the master plans that were approved last year. We're just transferring that to our elements so they're consistent. And then our goal number 2 goes with supporting that data and those findings and how often we want to look at our plans and update it. We have Wasilla County as a partner. We shared a lot of the transportation system with them, not just maintenance-wise, but when we have these annexations and parcels come into the city, the roadways are coming into the city as well. So we have this coordinated effort with the county to make sure that the quality of those roadways, when they come into the city, they meet certain standards. And by aligning how our streets and our cross sections look like, we can maintain that quality and consistency throughout the system. And we also highlight different funding mechanisms. Our main one right now is through mobility fees. So last year, we approved the increase of the mobility fees to fund these transportation projects, but we also explored other funding opportunities through grants and other opportunities depending on what type of improvements are being made. A lot of these funding opportunities are also partnerships with the developers, so they have a minimum standard that they need to build for their development, that they are required. Sometimes we'll ask them to do more and just so we can plan for the future and maybe add additional infrastructure that they're not required to build for the development, but that it will benefit the whole area. So these are the changes that were proposed in the update. As far as timeline, this is our first public hearing. We're asking for your recommendation for approval so we can take to our transmittal hearing on June 12th. And after that, it will go to the state for their review. It usually takes 30 days for us to hear back, and then we'll bring it. If they have any comments, we can address them. If not, we can take it to the council for adoption. So we're anticipating August for that adoption date. And do you have any questions?
Curious, the term early on was called data inventory. Is that just another word for gathering the information about what exists right now?
Yes.
Okay. And mobility fees, where do those come from?
They
You said
should-
they increased the mobility fees.
Yeah, so they come first. Any new development in the city, they pay mobility fees as part of their impact
Oh,
fees.
okay.
Is this required to be updated along with the master plan, the comprehensive plan?
Yes. Well, the comprehensive plan has its own requirements that we need to update every 7 years for planning for 10 or for the next 10, 20 years. So because our transportation mobility master plan is our data and analysis for the element, now we're updating the elements to align with the proposed policies with the findings from the master plan.
I think that makes sense. Are you able to bring up the map of 2-12, which is the projected framework streets? I know that one may not have been in your presentation.
Uh,
Is this,
it's the road.
okay, so this is existing.
Yeah. These are the overall.
Yeah, talks about the elements.
Well, I don't know if anybody else looked at the level of service that's projected for 2045, but keeping in mind that that doesn't take into account roads that are proposed, right? It's pretty much a look into how we would be in 2045 if no roads were added. But it pretty much everywhere around that Edgewater area is all level of service F.
I believe the report, if I'm correct, states that in 2045, I think the population in St. Cloud is 100,000. So, yeah.
I did have a question though about several of the terms are being updated, and that includes the road system and just the descriptions of different roads.
Mhm.
And under road system for the Florida Turnpike, I had noticed that it says that Florida Turnpike through St. Cloud is a 4-lane tolled limited access highway running north-south on the western side of the city, east of Lake Tahoe. And it says there is an interchange in the city at Clay Whaley Road. And then it says, and another south of the city at Friars Cove Road. Now, my understanding is that interchange is only for emergency vehicles. Has that changed that I'm unaware of?
That hasn't changed now. It's
I know it's proposed.
It's-
So is that language supposed to be like that? I mean, if it's only proposed and not
Doesn't
currently?
even though it's only for emergency, it still exists. That statement that it exists.
yeah, just for the inventory of the facilities. So we can make a note and specify that.
Well, 'cause then after it says, after that, it says that he is pursuing a new interchange that would align with the road. So I would think that it should say the city is also pursuing another interchange south of the city at Friars Cove, instead of saying that it already exists.
What does exist, it's that it's used.
Well, it's not really an interchange. It's just simply a ramp that emergency vehicles can.
But it's not what, I mean,
It's not an interchange. At least, in my opinion, that definition.
I think southbound there. That's
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then on the maps, there's some labeling issues. You might look at, for instance, Canoe Creek Road is labeled as Old Canoe Creek Road. You can see it in the map that's on the screen now. So where Old is, that's the intersection of Old Canoe Creek and Canoe Creek.
Yeah,
So you may want to just update some of that stuff. I mean, it looks like it was pulled from Google Maps maybe, but for some reason it's labeled incorrectly.
Yeah, the layers usually are pulled from GIS, so we'll take
I
a
don't know
look.
why
Those-
GIS would be incorrect, but you never know.
No. But yes, those are all still in the draft stage. We will make the correct changes for
every single road, but those were the ones that caught my eye. So do we allow for public comment on this, or we can? I don't think anybody's here to
Can
comment.
ask for it.
Okay, this time we're going to open up for public comment. All right, anybody? No? Okay. Close public comment. Discussion. Anything?
I actually read most of it. I don't know what I've retained, but good job. I like if it comes to fruition, the fact that the developments will be required to have the sidewalks, that the sidewalks will need to have some connectivity to each other, that the connectivity in general in the city hopefully will improve. That you're working on pedestrian traffic as well as vehicular traffic. So I like those elements in the plan.
I guess I do have one question. Obviously, one of the goals is to have more multimodal forms of transportation available, right? And biking, I think, is a great element, right? That we're trying to have, especially in the Edgewater area, and any areas that are currently being developed or will be developed in the future. However, as far as public transportation, the only thing we have now that I know of is links. Is there any other conversations with other entities in Florida to bring some other form of mass transportation to our area with another mode other than the links system?
So the city staff is part of several boards and committees throughout Central Florida. So we are constantly in conversation, coordinating to see different options that we can bring to the city. So by recognizing the framework roads like we have, we recognize that those streets are kind of ideal for becoming transit corridors. So this is what they want to see, not just the volume, but also that we have infrastructure to have those different facilities. So yes, so there are conversations, and we're looking into what kind of other modes we can bring to the city, including micromobility options. So it's something that our community development department and public works department work closely. So by having this in our plans, that just facilitates those conversations that we're ready for that.
All right, thank you. All right. Well, if there's no other discussion, I'll call for a motion. Would anybody like to? This is ordinance number 2025-49, which is an update to the transportation.
To move that we accept the ordinance number 2025-49, the transportation element update proposed.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. All right, I think that is the last action item. In the information section, we have the next planning commission meeting is scheduled for June 17th at 6 p.m. And I will actually be on vacation, so I will not be able to attend that meeting, but I'll send you an email just to confirm that. Anybody else has any other discussion topics? I'd like to get a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right. I've got a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
All right.
All right. Meeting adjourned.